when we break down the walls of communication and get it right, and everybody in the organization understands their importance, they understand what the mission is from one month to the next and what the goals are. And when the factory's showing up to one of these pep rallies and they're pouring into the people, guess what? All of a sudden, the culture takes off. And we know that pay is like number 7 in the top 10 reasons why we work somewhere. So what are you doing with 1 through 6? That's my challenge to everybody on the call.
Absolutely. All right, who's next?
Do we have to continue?
Welcome back, everybody, to the most action-packed episode of the Wheelhouse that we've had this week. Joining me today, of course, we have a little bit of a change-up in our cast of characters, which only helps us have even a better discussion than we typically have. And I'll get to introducing them here in just a second. But of course, first off, to remind everyone that we do have proud status of being the only show on ASOTU that has its own disclaimer, and that the views, opinions represented here are those of the individual speakers themselves and not representative of the company that employs them or their affiliates. Okay, so now that we've got that out of the way, up in your top right corner there, we've got Colby Joyner, who is the director of all things strategy, digital, and marketing and internet. Right? Is that close enough? With
that works. 100%.
Cavender Auto Group, right? Jarrod Kilway, and I'm sorry, Jarrod, why don't you tell us what your new role is so that you give a chance to introduce yourself properly?
So, VP of Digital Operations at Casa, Automotive Group.
Which has stores located in a couple of countries, right? Or
Texas and New Mexico.
Oh, okay. So a newer version of Mexico and then Texas. Got it.
Yes,
okay.
The new Mexico.
and a newer version of Mexico and an older version of Mexico.
Oh, yeah. I see what you did there. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And sorry. It's funny. You might have to it made me think about the border wall. You're gonna have to and I mean, yeah. So okay. Well, you guys can edit that later. But anyway, getting that, it gave me like a whole line of jokes. Anyway, Alan Brown, GM at Sampac's 5-Star Chevrolet. Alan, thanks for joining us again. Not a first timer here at the Wheelhouse. Appreciate you deciding to give us another shot. And
yes,
Jordan Cox, all it just says is community, but we all know Jordan Cox, who also helps produce the Wheelhouse, but also manages the community at ASOTU. So thank you guys all for joining us. As usual, we like to hear a 30-second update from each of you on what the world looks like close to you, what you're seeing this month, what you've noticed in automotive. From your guys' eyes, share with the rest of us who might be listening or watching. What are you seeing in your corner of the world? And Colby, about 30 seconds on the clock for you.
Great. Man, March for us has been big. We are moving forward. We're pacing our main goal. We've had this goal of 1,700 units for I want to say about a year and a half of trying to get to 1,700 units over the 8 stores. December was our highest month in that, and this month we're pacing past that point, which is great. Even mid-month to be pacing that. A lot of customers, a lot of activity. A lot of people coming in, not as much negative equity. So it's been pretty good.
Okay. I'm curious if not as much negative equity is because we're seeing a bit of a rise in the demand for pre-owned cars, like the valuations are up, or if this is just because these are the people that bought cars right as COVID was not yet taking the big effect that it took. But that's interesting to hear. Jarrod, 30 seconds on the clock. Anything that's coming across your field division?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it's been very interesting transitioning back from vendor space over to retail. And it's really interesting to take a look at it here based on what's changed. It's really interesting to see not only from the consumer side, but also from the dealer side of what's going on with really focusing on options of leases are coming back, it seems like, APR offers that are coming out of the woodworks. And then really people are focused on the big rebates to offset negative equity too.
And what brands are you representing? Just so we're
Ford, GMC, Buick, Mazda, Hyundai, Toyota, CDJR.
Yep, that's good. Okay, that's
a little bit of everything.
Yeah. If you have more, add them later.
Yep.
Jordan Cox, 30 seconds on the clock for you.
I'll speak for everybody that is in automotive retail as a whole. And really what I'm seeing is a lot of dealers had a really great month in February, and a lot of that steam is really holding tight in March. I mean, here we are the third week in March. The first 2 weeks have been strong for everybody. But I'm excited to see some people start to set some more records. We saw that a lot in February. I think that's going to happen a lot this quarter as well, compared to last year, whether it's in the fixed side, the variable side. And I'm just excited for used cars to come back as a whole. That's always been a passion of mine.
Nicely done and well done inside that 30 seconds there. So that was
well, thanks.
Yeah, no, Jarrod, just so you see, it's not 25 seconds of a preamble and then 5 seconds of an answer. That's just gets the point across better. Alan, 30 seconds on the clock.
That continuation of February, parts and services on fire. I think people are holding on to their cars a little bit longer based on current interest rates. Used cars is only a challenge based on inventory on the ground. We're at an all-time low with inventory, so obviously used cars is a hot topic there. New cars, hey, we've got some models that are incredibly hot, and we've got some models that we're having to do deep discounts on. So I think we and the factory have to pay attention to that.
Excellent points. All right, I'm glad I asked those. All great points. Thank you. All right, let's take a look at just a couple of headlines from that we scooped up from this week. And this headline caught my attention because it says another Carvana customer discovers they bought a car that was reported stolen. It caught my eye because it said another, meaning like we've duplicated this. Yes, and in fact, clients have been contacted after purchasing these vehicles by law enforcement, letting them know that they believe there's an issue with the car. They come and they look at it, and they do believe that, and they've given them evidence. It looks like that these vehicles were reported stolen prior to them being sold to Carvana. Of course, it's not saying, that was the transaction, but at least that's saying that, yes, these were reported stolen, at least prior to the transaction date with Carvana, clearly prior to yours. My favorite quote in the article from one of the clients who was unfortunately involved in this says, I know on their website they have a 150-point inspection, but you would think that if they really did a 150-point inspection, they would have caught the stolen VIN, and I wouldn't be in the situation today. I don't know if that would have solved it, but certainly maybe something. I don't know. What do you guys, is this surprising? What do you guys think?
I think it's something that's been going on forever. I mean, you look back to automotive, it's been going on for rental cars back in the 60s and 70s that were taken to drag strips and raced and then turned back in. But I just think the industry as a whole, it's something that's continuously happened. But now with the channels we have, it's just getting more exposure to it because of Carvana and what they represent.
Yeah, I mean, we're half a century past the days of the drag strips with the, so shouldn't things have improved? And why is this seem to be like we're seeing two in a row almost, and it's coming from Carvana? Is there something inherent in their process that's not inherent in what we have in the rest of the business?
Clearly there's something broken in their process, and they've got to get their arms around it because, unfortunately they're getting a lot of bad press on this, and it continues to be a can that's getting kicked down the road for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious.
I think it's process for sure. And I would be curious how many dealers would actually fall under the same issue.
Right.
Because it sounds like the VIN just didn't match on the door and the windshield based off of what the actual VIN was on the module when they plug it in. So I'd be curious how many dealers actually wouldn't be able to catch that either so I've been at 3 dealers in 10 years. At 2 of the 3 dealers, we would have not caught that because we wouldn't check for that. Although I guess the only thing is I don't think the title matched that didn't match the title either, if I remember correctly,
right.
Daniel.
Right. And that's, yeah. So, I mean, but you're right. I mean, this is something we should all probably take a look at too. I guess my point of it is more from the customer service aspect of things. How did this make it this far? Because I believe that anybody on this call, if I bought a car from you and police came and told me it was stolen prior to you selling it to me, and I called you and gave you the, wow, that's fantastic, but not really. I don't think that, would I still be in the car? Would it have made it this far? And that's what I think is different. I don't think that anyone on here would have let it slide like that and let it get to the press and get it to the point where somebody's that frustrated. But moving on, and in some aspects of customer service, another story following another Tesla Cybertruck. An NFL player that tried to buy a Cybertruck for about $100,000 over its original price was blocked, not by common sense, but by his financial advisor. And there's a lot of things that I find pretty interesting with this, but not least of all is the fact that, like, is there any other car in history that has garnered this much attention to every time someone buys and sells one as the Tesla Cybertruck has? Not that I can remember, but is there anything else that I'm missing that's unique here? And I think Colby, you just might be on mute.
Yeah, I said no. I think the biggest thing is that it's been like 4 years since they introduced it, and it's finally coming out. There's been so much hype around it all, and then they kind of just like drip it slowly into the market. Well, with everybody in cars in the automotive industry just being wacky over the last several years, they want some uniqueness. They want something unique and fun and cool, and people have money to spend, and they're just going to go crazy with it.
Yeah, I think I drew that truck when I was in elementary school, with the triangle and all that stuff,
For sure.
Yeah, I think the amount of people as well that actually did the pre-orders now that just threw the $100 into the wind, and now they're starting to see them and starting to see what the value of these are, is also creating that idea in their head that, hey, I have this much potential equity if I actually do buy this thing. So it's creating additional eco space in the market too.
Yeah, I think this money manager was probably spot on, right? There's going to be a short window of time where there's going to be this buzz and excitement, and then this truck's going to normalize like everything else. Our Z06 was out of sight for about 6-8 months there, and now it's back down to just a touch above MSRP if it's the right trim. So I think the money manager was spot on.
There's two people I could ask, and they would tell me no about buying any car whatsoever: a financial advisor and my wife. No, every time.
On Dave Ramsey.
That's right. Dave Ramsey. There's three.
Well, I think that look at all the different various coins, right? The coins go out there; they fluctuate so high, high and low, high and low. You're going to take something like this, and immediately, as long as there's equity in it, they're going to kick it out to try to get the money, so they're not screwed on it. Right? They're not going to get the truck, hold on to it. I want to drive it for a year, and it just bottoms out.
Yeah. And at the same time, at the latest meeting of the Ford Lightning project managers, I think it went something like this: why can't we be like that as far as a deposit and delivery process goes? But just my guess. I don't know. I don't have confirmation of that. Speaking of people just spending money left and right, inflation is still there. And we see that and we hear it. And it's like, now is it a little bit more like, is it falling on deaf ears? Because people keep spending. At least that's what, we heard a little bit. Let's expand a little bit on what you guys said and around the horn. But that's also what the media is reporting, is that inflation is still there, but people are still spending. A, that what you're seeing, and B, any insights from your customers as to what exactly they're thinking.
They're definitely still spending. I think they're a lot more cautious today than what they were 24 months ago, especially if you're trading a car deal that you did 24 months ago, and that person was blessed with 4% at 75 months, and now you're showing them what 9.5 looks like. It pauses the process, and the conversation becomes a lot different than what it was 24 months ago. That's what we're definitely seeing, and I also think that's why my parts and service business is up. People are starting to realize that, that 3, 4, or 5% rate that they had from 2 or 3 years ago is worth hanging on to and servicing a little deeper.
Are you seeing any delays in actually getting vehicles in for repair? How far out, or without, being specific if you don't want to, but are you seeing any delays in getting production through the shop?
It's a great question. It really is based on what the customer's coming in for. If it's a transmission or a motor concern, we can be 2 or 3 weeks out. If it's trim, electrical, AC, some normal type maintenance, we're within a couple of days. And we've really been really lucky with doing pickup and delivery, and that helps a lot. With giving that customer that extra piece of confidence that we're going to come to them and we're going to try to turn it as quickly as possible if it's a routine item.
Okay. Anybody else seeing as far as what appointments are looking like on either sales or service? Is this kind of indicative of the spending we're talking about?
Our sales appointments are going up. Our service is full. I think one of the biggest reasons that there's a lot of spend is that you have a fair amount of OEMs that are dropping these super low rates right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have these people that got into a vehicle 2 years ago at a 9, 10, 11, 12% rate that can switch into a 0%. Yeah, the payment may be the same, if not a little bit higher, but they're more comfortable with that 0% rate.
Yeah. And the incentives are doing I would think a decent job of counteracting just what the rate would be, because you're getting, and first of all, the rate, they don't have to drop the rate that far. I think that's what some manufacturers are realizing also. Like you zero is amazing, right? But you don't have to get to zero. And in fact, a lot of the special rates you have right now are between like 2.9 and 4.9 if we're kind of looking across the brands. And that seems to be doing it as well, which is kind of like a nice middle ground to be able to understand, like, we don't need it to be zero. It's nice that it's not 14, right? like it's something reasonable. Like, we'll definitely, we can make a marketing effort out of it, and it doesn't take that much. Talking just a little bit about marketing, we're going to go on to our next topic here. So as every year, Consumer Reports listed their 5 best brands. Does anyone care? Let me ask a different question. Does it influence any large number of people to buy a car on that list or not buy a car if it doesn't show up on that list? That doesn't affect NFL players going to buy Cybertrucks. Is this actually, so my question is kind of 2 parts. Is this still actually influencing any group of people? A, and B, what is considered an influencer in the automotive world now, if not the old standbys of Consumer Reports, Farmer's Almanac, and Encyclopedia Britannica?
Yeah, I think there's a generation, it's funny, but there's an older generation, especially down here in South Florida, that still lean heavily on Consumer Reports because that's all they've ever known. But I think the younger generation, or our generation per se, we're more using Google and information and education to make decisions rather than a one-party opinion.
Like, was anyone here worried that their brand wasn't on Consumer Reports? Like, did anyone have it right? Okay.
No, but I think with information today, like, just because Consumer Reports put out 5 top brands, there's going to be an article from someone else that's going to list 5 different brands. So there's going to be this complete confusion on who should you actually trust, which then what they do is they end up leaning towards people that they trust, like family, friends, their neighbor, somebody that has a vehicle and says, hey, how do you like that? I love it. It's great. Cool. Nothing else is going to convince them otherwise because they have that personal relationship with somebody that says it's good or it's bad.
Yeah, that's the hard part is it's Consumer Reports. We're talking about old media. And just like you guys said, there's been this big switch now to actual people and influencers. And someone that actually represents like a personal brand, like even Doug DeMuro from a while ago. People were so tied and connected to him that he replaced Consumer Reports almost overnight. And I mean, when I was selling, this would have been like 2013 or 2014, there were only 2 people that brought up Consumer Reports that entire year. And they were both related, father and son. So I think it's more generational than anything.
Well, did you see all the hoopla that went around the MKBHD and his review of the Fisker Ocean?
The Fisker,
It became this thing where the engineer was calling the guy that owned the Ocean and was like, hey, did you sell that to him? Because we need to try to figure this out. Like, that kind of influencer, a guy that has millions of subscribers on YouTube that does reviews on EVs, probably had more influence on whether or not somebody's going to buy a Fisker than Consumer Reports.
It changed their stock pretty quick, didn't it?
Yep.
which is amazing because I've worked for a brand that has no shortage of software updates for their vehicles, and they've never particularly cared if someone gives it this review or that. So I give Fisker a little bit of credit actually for being that proactive on it.
I think cost of ownership, when people are searching for information, and a lot of our customers are on forums. They're looking at a Camaro, they're on a Camaro forum, whatever the case might be. But cost of ownership is probably what they're seeking out more than anything else, especially if they're buying a new car and they know that it's going to have new car warranty for X amount of time. What is the true cost of ownership? And when you look at different types of brands that have very high level of cost of ownership, but yet a pretty low entry price, I think that's why they struggle with some of the volume. And that's why you see them coming out with maintenance programs to try to offset that perception.
No, that's astute for sure. I think even if I just look at like let's look at it through like a modern day lens. So I look up Consumer Reports on Instagram because that's where I get a lot of my information. Then I see that there's only 3 people that I follow. One's a company, and then 2 people that follow Consumer Reports. Those 2 people haven't bought a car in the last 10 years. I know. Right. And that's who follows them. So if it wasn't Consumer Reports, if we were just looking through the lens of any other media company, then I would kind of disqualify them by being like, yeah, nobody I know that's in this field actually follows them. So like, why should I necessarily? Granted, they've got, 494,000 followers, which is, more than me, but still, there could be bots.
We're seeing forums help customers on the parts and service side, especially under recalls. And what is that process going to look like? How long are you going to have my car? A lot of these customers already have that information through a good forum.
And wouldn't it be cool? I'll let the time expire here, but like, wouldn't it be cool if any of the automotive would advertise your inventory, if next to the SRP of your vehicle, they had in there any open recalls, but your ability to service that, be like, what is your service wait time and how quickly can you get, like this much time for an oil change, this much time for tires, and this dealership can do your tires within a day. This dealership takes a week, right? And let's reward those good and give you, so let's tie I know this is crazy talk I'm speaking, but like bring sales and service kind of forefront. And so saying like, you're going to be purchasing the vehicle with in your mind, what it's going to take to be an owner of that vehicle and how well that dealership that you're buying that car is equipped to actually handle the service for it. Now, I get it. You might not be buying it from your local dealer, and that's fine too, but a lot of people still are. And this would definitely reward you for paying attention to your service department and parts department and doing a great job with the efficiency in the shop. Now it's front and center when you're trying to sell the vehicle. Crazy talk, I know, but
crazy.
It's what I asked. That and the 500 season for the Bears is what I ask for Santa every year. Unclear what's going to happen first, actually. All right, as we talk about things that we see on the computer, if you guys landed in a new territory, the new store, what is one piece of software that you cannot live without, you deem essential to your success in that store? One piece of software, that's it. You got to have that. Doesn't mean that's the only one you've got, but that's the one. Jarrod, let's start with you.
So in terms of what software I would choose, it would be something regarding analytics. Most likely Google Analytics, to be able to really track what is happening. I think in today's time and place, having the understanding of what consumer behavior is online is critical downstream from online to in-store and actually post-sale as well. So I would align myself with analytics to be able to really track the consumer experience from start to finish.
Okay. All right. Colby?
I'm looking at it from my point of view and what I'm doing in a store. Monday for me is, if I did not have that, I probably would not be employed here. And Jarrod knows me, Jordan knows me, in terms of I have a hard time focusing. So I need to make sure that I'm keeping things in line, organized, and I'm knocking the tasks and items out. And without that, with the 8 stores and I have 6 people on the team and all this stuff that's going on all the time, if I could not stay organized, then I'm not doing my due diligence for the organization. So if you gave me nothing other than Monday.com, then I could do what I need to do.
Bang, Monday. And project management. Got it. All right. Yep. Alan, how about you?
I could go in so many different places, but I'm going to say social media. I cannot do without social media. I can cut a lot of things in advertisement and still get the message across, still be relevant, and still have a lot of fun. Open up the windows to our store on social media and let them know the fun factor and the quality of individual that's here. I think it's priceless, and I couldn't do without social media.
All right, Jordan, take us home.
Oh man, I got to keep it well-rounded now. Between like Monday.com and social, both of those are excellent options. So I got to pick something basic. I would not go anywhere without a good CRM system. And I don't mean that way as far as tracking someone's tasks, really just tracking engagement for customers. That was one thing that was really important for me. It was just tracking that, seeing who was responding and having those top of mind awareness. There's some really good CRM providers out there, and everybody's got their favorite. But man, that's what I would go nowhere without, is a good CRM system.
All right, I'll let you off the hook from naming a specific one.
I wish I could.
That was sort of the point. But all right.
How about everybody else name their favorite?
For me, it would be reverse risk or Casa, depending on who you can get to answer the phone. That would be would what I would want for a dealership, so I could know where we're being successful. All right,
that's always up on my screen.
Okay, see, great minds, man. Just right. By the way, you told us last time that you traded into an EV. How's that experience going?
So far so good. I'm loving it. I got a charger in the house. So I'm not having to stop anywhere or charge anywhere. Obviously I work at a dealership, so if I needed to, I could. Overall, it's been great. I Haven't even missed going to the gas station or trying to do any of that stuff. It's fun to drive. The only thing I regret is not getting the GT version. That was a little bit quicker, but it's still quick when I'm on the highway and I want to punch it. I can still pass anybody easily. And I love the Blue Cruise because I have a Mustang Mach-E. I drove up to Rockwall, which one of our stores is up there. I drove up there this last weekend. It's 4.5 hour drive. Oh. And about 90% of the way, I didn't touch the steering wheel.
That's cool.
Wow. Okay. And then you traded up from, you had a Fiesta or a?
No, I had a Bronco. I had one of the new Broncos.
And so, all right. But that's no, I mean, you're not having, and you don't have any anxiety about your range, or you're not.
Now that I have a charger at the house, no, not at all.
Okay. And so in this new place where we've just landed and you've taken your favorite piece of software, or just in the store that you're at now, actually, that's probably a better example. What is something that you can do? And I love that expression about opening up the windows of our store. Man, that's Sam, you hit him with some diamonds. What is something that you can have? So if I'm listening to the show right now and I want to actively make my place of employment known as a place where others should come work. You don't work here now, but this is something that I have that is known that would make me a place that would attract talent. And for example, like if you guys have recently switched jobs recently, like what was something that attracted you to where you work? And that could be too. But what is something, if I'm listening to the show right now and I want to have something at the dealership that'll make it known to talent out there that we're the place to be, what would that be? And Alan, I'll start off with you because you hit us with such a great quote earlier.
Yeah, it's displaying your culture, right? And there you can go into all different types of discussions when it goes to that. But our backbone of our culture is wrapped up at the end of the month in a pep rally, and it even made Automotive news in how we celebrate the employees of the month, how we go over the financials from the previous month, how we go over forecast of the next month. So if you're a porter, a GSM, or somewhere in between, you walk away knowing what the mission was, how we did, and what the mission is. And when we break down the walls of communication and get it right, and everybody in the organization understands their importance, they understand what the mission is from one month to the next and what the goals are. And when the factory's showing up to one of these pep rallies and they're pouring into the people, guess what? All of a sudden, the culture takes off. And we know that pay is like number 7 in the top 10 reasons why we work somewhere. So what are you doing with 1 through 6? That's my challenge to everybody on the call.
Absolutely. All right. Who's next?
Do we have to continue?
Yeah, I know. Everybody's got to be next.
How do you follow up that?
You don't.
I'll go next. So I would say it's really about, at least for me, it was always about mentorship and development. Where I'm going, where I'm working, is there really that opportunity to continue getting better at what you're doing? And is there someone that can mentor you in that role to help you improve that? And then are they also giving you opportunities to be a part of, not necessarily to go hang out at events, but are they giving you that opportunity to continue your education through content? And I'm looking forward to the next few months. There's a Sean V. Bradley event that they have going on. There's a David Kane event they have going on in May. There's a SoduCon. There's 20 groups that go year round. And it's things like that where you get in with other people and really learn from them. So mentorship and development, that's where it's at for me.
Absolutely. And see you at Kane Automotive if anyone else is going to that. See you there.
That's right.
Right. See you there.
Okay. No, for me it's community. I think community is a really big piece to it. And Daniel, you and I both worked for a previous company that was very heavily involved with Peloton up in Columbus. And that that's always a great feedback. And that really brings the community together up there in the Columbus market. But also with what we just did at Casa Autoplex last month, when we did the car giveaway, and it happened to be a veteran whose car broke down 2 days before, and he is now pouring into the community of how just his appreciation and what that's really doing for our personnel. It's not just about doing your task and doing this; it's about providing a service to the community and helping others.
That's cool.
Colby?
Great. Thanks, Jarrod. You left me 7 seconds. So I champion Alan on what he was talking about when, the utilization of social media, really pushing out there the culture. I think having a visibility of professionalism across the board, from your content to the way your stores look to cleanliness and all. That's just constantly putting that out there. And every piece of content or copy or anything that you have, it's professional, but entertaining, educating, and it feels like you. I think at the same time, though, you have to champion the people. You have to show that people can be highly successful there, and they're going to be, mentored to grow in that area. But you have to create a little bit of FOMO. You have to create a little bit of, I feel like I'm missing out by not being involved in that organization. Because you're at an organization now. What's the difference between your organization and the one that you want to go to? Well, there's something that's pulling you there. It's either going to be the people that you want to hang around. It's going to be the potential for promotion or advancement. It's going to be the surroundings. There's so much stuff, but you have to create that little bit of FOMO. And I think that can be put into every piece of content that's pushed out there. Anything that you push out, it's about, getting your brand out there. It's about trying to capture more customers and trying to capture more people in general. People that are going to be, future employees of yours, or people that are going to be champions of yours in the community. It's not just, hey, I'm pushing this ad out there because I want to sell a car. Hey, that ad may also get me a new salesperson that really likes the way that we did business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And 100%. We should do that more often, because you guys get some great responses out of that. Thank you. Let's go to the flip side of that. Let's go to the exact flip side of that. As part of a segment here that we do with some relationship advice for people in automotive, there's our theme music. That's right. That's right. Some of you talk about having a landing page for a successful campaign. We talk about having theme music here. All right. Because we're like useful for automotive, but kind of, right? We're basically the elliptical for automotive news. All right. Give me some signs that you work at a dealership that's just not that into you. I think, Colby, you've been a part of this before, so you can't reuse one, although if you did, we maybe wouldn't remember, but it's not, you just, something, I work at a dealership, what's the sign? And we've gone over some things, right? Like, training gets cut. All of a sudden, there's no training. There's no meetings. There's no huddles. There's no quarterly recognition, things like that. We've kind of gone over that. Give me something else. What's a red flag that maybe your dealership, and you might just have to break up with that dealership?
Yeah, values are gone. We're going to make a deal no matter what, and we're going to bend our values. We're going down the wrong path now.
Absolutely. Jarrod?
Deviating from process, similar to what you said, but it's really, you've had process you've held people accountable to for so long, and all of a sudden the processes go out the window and it becomes the Wild West. That puts you in a pretty scary place as a salesperson.
Right. We'll give Colby a second to think about it, because it's the second time appearing in this segment. Gordon?
I think there's two. There's one red flag that happens a lot even during the interview process, which is we're all just like family. And anytime you hear that line, you just run the other way. And then the other one, anytime. So I think accountability is a two-way street, because you have accountability for yourself from your manager, but also to your manager. And if your manager says they're going to do something and they don't do it, then that continually happens. That's a huge red flag. And it's almost like they're willing to bend to whatever you're asking for now, but over the long term, they're really not willing to be bought into what that is.
Yeah, hypocrisy tears down. How long it took you to build it, hypocrisy will break it down half the time.
That's right.
Colby, final thoughts?
When there's more I's than we's.
Ooh.
Okay.
That's deep.
Yeah.
Yep. When management or anybody that you're surrounded by is saying, I did this, I did this, I did this, versus we did this or you did this, in positivity. When it's a failure, I failed you, right? When it's a win, it's, hey, we won. And so if there's more I's than we's in winning, then that's the wrong spot.
See, like, why wouldn't you want to work for either of you guys? Honestly. So, and it actually reminds me of a quote from one of my favorite providers of quotes, other than Alan Brown.
Ted Lasso
is Winston Churchill, who said that something to the effect of defeat is always a bastard, but victory has 1,000 fathers. And read into that about Winston's colored history what you'd like, but I think he's pretty accurate with that. So anyway, Colby Joyner and Winston Churchill to kind of wrap up the Wheelhouse for this week, as we do here. That's the place where we make those kind of sandwiches. Thanks for joining us this week. We'll see everybody in another 2 weeks right here on the Wheelhouse. Thanks, everybody.